I didn't want to go to Kenya. I imagined it to be like a giant safari park, with animals on display. But when I saw the Great Plains and the snow-capped Mount Kilimanjaro below, excitement really mounted. I had read the books and seen TV programs before going, so I hoped to see wide open spaces with lion, giraffe and elephant. I would never have guessed how exciting a safari could be.
I had always dreamed of going on a safari, and here we were. After spending our first night in the capital Nairobi, our adventure began. The local villages were very colourful and the people friendly. With its British heritage, English is widely spoken, although the local language is Kiswahili. It was a 4-hour drive to our first destination on the safari, deep in the Masai Mara Reserve, to stay at Kikarok Lodge for 2 days. As soon as we left the outskirts of the city, we began to see plains game in abundance. Many herds of Thomson gazelle, their beautiful black-striped bodies with ever-twitching tails. Family groups of warthog, not the prettiest of animals, but funny to see how they root about the ground. Everywhere gazelle, like the beautiful impala, with its large-shaped horns, keeping close watch on his harem of females. A haughty female ostrich turned her back on us, and the colourful crested crane chose to ignore us. The rarest sighting of the whole tour was to be a group of wild dog. They are rare in the Masai Reserve, but not missed, with a reputation as one of the cruelest predators who eat their prey alive. One of the commonest plains game is the wildebeest. These ungainly-looking creatures, whose annual migration many hundreds of miles into neighbouring Tanzania and back, often fall prey to the larger predators. The wooden chalet apartments and public buildings at Kikarok are in an arc around one side of a large waterhole. Colourful weaver birds abound around the garden and were busy nest building in the thorny acacia. From the lounge we marvelled at the lush green lawns, vibrant bougainvillea and the vivid orange shrubs. The drinks were cold, the swimming pool warm, and the atmosphere just electric. The dream was reality. Whatever next? Our bus seated 6, Janice and David, Maggie and Tony, Kim and Neville, and our driver for the week, Charles. It was comfortably sprung and needed to be. Everyone had a window seat, and the roof lifted to give an even wider view. The ventilation was welcome too. Our driver Charles was a master at his craft, and his enthusiasm as great as ours. Spotting species soon became a habit, and with noses up against the windows, we tried to beat Charles and get one up on other buses along the trails. The elephants were quite approachable while browsing. They are destructive animals. A herd passing through an area leaves trampled grass and dust clouds behind. They tear down bushes, rip up trees, and even eat the thorny acacia. Cape buffalo are an unpredictable and dangerous species. We always kept a respectful distance. Eyes needed to be up as well as scanning the horizon. A white-backed eagle sits high, keeping close watch on her nest. while one of the most feared of predators, the leopard, is perfectly at home in the topmost branches of trees. They often drag their prey up high so that other animals cannot share. Our first sighting of one of the large cats, we were ecstatic. With imperious grace, the Maasai giraffe eats the bushes and trees. The vertical range over which this animal can feed is from 8 feet to its standing height of 18 feet. Strangely, their neck has the same number of vertebrae as ours. Hartebeest were another of the gazelle family we were to see every day. They were recognisable by their long faces and bracket-shaped horns, which are present in both sexes. Burchels or common zebra are plentiful but rather shy. Pregnant females and young often fall prey to lion and leopard, although one of the saddest sights we saw was a female with wire hooked around her head and hooves, a man-made hazard, and we knew she could not last long in that condition. The sighting of a jackal and a nervous-looking waterbuck meant just one thing to Charles: lion. He soon found her, purposefully stalking a group of topi. Solitary, it's doubtful if she could make a kill, but our thoughts went back to that zebra. The nights are long on the Masai Mara. A chance to get a bird's eye view over the Maasai plains was too much to miss, even though it was to be a 5 a.m. start. Unfortunately, it was to be a bad day for game spotting, with very little about, although spotting 2 leopards running from the trees was a nice sight. As silent as we were, the animals sensed the balloon, and a small herd of elephant didn't like our appearance at all. The big bull made a charge for us and went to protect his family. A good hour had gone by, and the pilot who had steered us towards the ground crew pulled the cord for the descent. A perfect landing in the middle of nowhere, then a sumptuous champagne breakfast was laid on for us. We must have looked a curious sight. A passing ostrich couldn't believe his eyes. Back to the bus, back to the hunt, eager for more, and it was still only 8 a.m. Our first sighting was a male lion, and we had just been sitting out there. We wondered if he had been watching us. As close as we got, he would not veer from his path. Out snake hunting, a secretary bird flew off as we got too near and went back to her nest. Standing about 2 feet high, it is the plume of feathers standing at the back of her head which gives them their name. How lucky can you get? We rounded a clump of bushes and there they were. Charles had triumphed again. It was obvious that no one had known this female and calf were about. None had been sighted for weeks. They are an endangered species and rarely seen. In the quiet morning, speaking in hushed tones, we watched them in awe as they browsed, keeping side on to her at about 15 feet distant. Her eyesight is not too good, but she does have a keen sense of smell. Adults will browse around 200 pounds a day to maintain their great bulk. It was getting very late in the day when we came across 3 lion cubs snoozing in the warm sun. Charles guessed that the adults may not be far away and set off to find them. We found them all right, not 200 yards away on the other side of the copse, with a very fresh kill. Vultures, hyena and jackals started to move in. Hyenas stand at the top of the scavenger pecking order. The jackal may be able to drive off a few vultures, but they all must wait their turn. After having her fill, one female left the kill and went for a drink at a nearby waterhole. Charles said she would be thinking of those cubs. Sure enough, she set off in their direction, while the vultures waited impatiently. The other female, meanwhile, dragged the carcass away from the spilled bowl and began to cover it with soil. By now, another bus had arrived to see the spectacle. The cubs ignored us all and rushed to tear into the carcass. When they were all full and satisfied, they moved off to clean up, leaving the remains to be fought over by the scavengers. After a marvellous 2 days, was it really only 2 days? North to the Samburu Reserve and a warm welcome from Samburu tribespeople. The tribe lives on the reserve as they have for centuries, carrying on the traditions. Tall, elegant people, always dressed in red, they live in mud huts and raise large herds of cattle and goats, which they take onto the plains each day to feed, fearless of the ferocious wild beasts, carrying just a lance for protection. For our enjoyment and to earn an extra few shillings, they proudly show off their unusual dancing talent. The Iwaso-Nyero River runs through the middle of the reserve and supports much wildlife of its own, such as crocodiles, snake, heron and marabou, and quite a large group of hippo. It is lovely standing on the bank and watching these huge snorting giants. Although vegetarian, you don't risk paddling. It was a truly beautiful setting. The chalets were set under the trees, giving maximum shade from the burning sun. The weather here was well into the 90s, so sitting in the shade with a cool glass is welcome time to do some bird watching for a change. Blue jay, woodpecker, hornbill, crested eagle and the noisy weaver birds were just a few of the many. It was incredible to think Christmas so close to the equator at latitude 0 degrees 31 minutes and the lawns and gardens reminiscent of good old England. A Samburu warrior blowing a buffalo horn calls us from the bar and our reverie. Time to eat yet again. Game drives were very early in the morning or late afternoon because of the heat. It was to be the last game drive, but proved just as exciting with some completely different species to see. Gerenok or giraffe gazelle was new to us. With their unusually long necks, they stand on their hind legs to reach leaves other gazelles couldn't get near. Reticulated giraffe are much brighter coloured and handsome than their Maasai cousins, which makes them a little easier to spot, or had we just got better at it. A large troop of baboon marched past, leaving their night roost and heading for the lodge, hoping for easy pickings. A dangerous pest, they are not encouraged, but they try their luck anyway. Suddenly surrounded by a large herd of elephants made the heart race. A dangerous situation, but happily they were more interested in eating. Dusted with the red soil of the area, they get protection against ticks and insects, as well as the hot sun, for elephants too can get sunburn. Cheetah, a more beautiful creature you could not wish to see. A member of the cat family, which are amongst the most efficient of the plains game predators and the fastest creature on 4 legs. They can sprint up to 70 miles an hour in the pursuit of antelope. They are unusual looking, more dog-like in appearance than feline. They have non-retractable claws, which is unique amongst cats. The last hour of our last drive, and here they were. Could anything have been more perfect? The only one of the big cats we had not seen, our luck had certainly held. Christmas Day at Treetops, made famous when our Princess Elizabeth was staying there and received the news that the king had died and she was now queen. It is a giant tree house besides a large waterhole set in what is now quite a small reserve. Tea was served on the rooftop terrace or drinks in the viewing lounge, and for once you wait for the animals to come to you. It was rather quiet but peaceful day, but there were warthog, bush book, buffalo, reedbuck, bush pig, and one lone elephant that came down in the evening. From elephants to spiders, it truly was all creatures great and small. A dream come true? You bet. And David, who didn't want to go in the first place?
I wouldn't have missed it for the world.